Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing weeks 40 and 41 of my 2023 reads. Last week I ended up only reading one book, which I did a standalone review for, so I'm kind of wrapping that up together with this week. Timestamps and content warnings are in the description box below. So first, the book that I finished last week was Arboreality by Becca Campbell. I do have a standalone review for this, so I will link that below if you want to go check it out. But this book was just so fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It was shortlisted for the Ursula K. Le Guin Prize, and some of my friends, Angela at Literature Science Alliance and Becca at Read Becca, had read this and said it was excellent. So I decided to prioritize and get to it. And it's a novella. It's very short. It is so good, but you have to like the style of writing. It's a very slow book. It's basically a near future cli-fi novella that is sort of this multi-generational, almost interconnected short stories, but I think it has a larger story to tell. And it just focuses on a bunch of people who live on Vancouver Island in British Columbia as sort of the world gets a little bit more difficult, as there are more extreme weather patterns and a lot of the systems and sort of structures of society start breaking down, and it follows them and follows their kind of ways of being. It's very realistic sci-fi, and I think that it's very atmospheric. I just was so immersed in the moment, every moment that I was in the book. I adored this. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And if you like those kind of slow, contemplative sci-fi novels, I think that you'll love this book. Next, I read another favorite, this time a reread, Fluff 2 by Raven's Dagger, which is the second book in the Fluff series. I have a series review for this, so I will link that down below if you're interested, but I loved this so much. I mean, just talk about a comfort reread. And actually, my husband, Sush, read this out loud to me, and so we got to experience it together. We have both read this separately before, and getting to reread it together was just fantastic. This series is basically, takes place in kind of a modern day version of the world, but where superheroes and villains exist. And every year on Power Day, people kind of discover that they have powers, and we follow a protagonist, Emily, who is just about to start college. She's very shy, has a lot of social anxiety, and she wakes up on Power Day to discover that she is a villain, and she does not want to be a villain. She's so rule-abiding, and so she's trying desperately to ignore it or somehow change her alignment. But she keeps getting dragged into this world of the masks, or the people with superpowers, and she ends up accidentally using her powers and summoning some summon sisters who are were sisters. So she has a were bear sister, a were owl sister, these sorts of things. And just in the second book, I love the way that it further develops the story, and just you learn more about this whole system of heroes and villains, and it really questions the system, and it really questions how people are categorized and what really makes somebody good or evil. And I love just the development of Emily's character as she starts to kind of discover her own powers. It is so funny and so sweet and just fantastic. I loved this, and I can't wait for the third book to come out. So I gave this, upon reread, 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I love this series so much. Next, I read Yours for Now by Leonor Soliz. This is a contemporary romance that I heard about from Cynthia at BookWhimsy. She has done a whole video spotlighting this author, Leonor Soliz, so I will link that below. And hearing her talk about this, I knew that I wanted to give this author a try, and I'm so glad I did, because this was fantastic. So this is a fake dating romance, which I love. I think that especially in contemporaries, fake dating just gives you that opportunity for the characters to kind of be in close proximity and get to know one another. And for this one, we have a heroine who basically is very ambitious and wants to really take off in her career. Her parents, her family own this company that does a lot of construction projects, and she has this really grand plan for how they can expand and build and kind of really modernize a lot of what they're doing. But there's a lot of sexism in her family, and they don't really believe that she can do things on her own. And when she pairs up with a guy that she knows who is at another company that's very successful, that she wants to partner with for this project, her family seem to think that they are dating, And as long as he's at the helm, they're willing to give the go ahead. And so she says, hey, could we just pretend that we're dating so that we can make this project work? And because the project is very important for his career as well, he says, okay, I guess. I feel a little uncomfortable, but sure. I mean, you know, let's work on this. And so they're both just super driven in their careers, and I loved that about them. They're both like really good people, and they're both trying very hard to be helpful to one another, and I just loved that. It's a very slow burn romance, and that fake dating part, they start maybe being attracted to each other, but very much keeping it professional, and only over gradual time does that start to kind of develop into a relationship. And I really liked that, because often I have issues with workplace romances, but I didn't at all with this one. And I loved the ending of this. The way that the conflict in the third act happened and how it resolved, I thought was excellent. Often, you know, I can get frustrated with the conflict in the third act in romance novels because it's a little formulaic, or it relies on just, you know, miscommunication or something like this, and this one did not. This one was really solid in the way that it handled that. I do think that in the middle it was just a little bit dragged out. I like slow things, but for this one, it felt like we had just a lot of repetition of scenes where in the middle they're fake dating and they're both like, oh, but I can't get involved because I need to focus on my career. So I think that that could have been tightened up a little bit, but other than that, I thought this was excellent. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I am definitely interested in reading more books by Leonor Soliz. Then I read What is Home, Mum by Sabba. This is a graphic memoir that I heard about from Jen at Remembered Reads, who I will link below. And it is basically about, Sabba just really working through a lot of different issues that she's faced with. So this memoir is broken up into a lot of chapters, and it does cover different aspects of her life, but not necessarily in a full memoir style. It's more just topical, digging into a lot of issues that have to do with the idea of belonging, because her parents were basically refugees, immigrants from Kashmir, from Pakistan, when a dam was built there and their village was kind of flooded. They were able to, you know, come to England and set up a life there, but it's quite challenging for them. So it's a lot about that immigrant experience, a lot about the racism that they've experienced as a family, also a lot about just sort of generational trauma and toxic masculinity and issues with their home life, and even just kind of dependency and dynamics with her mom and the expectations of being, you know, a good daughter. All of these sorts of issues get really unpacked in here. I think that the artwork in this, whenever she was doing something stylistically really interesting, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It just really honed in on using visual elements to explore ideas, and I thought that was so well done. I don't know that the drawing style was always my favorite. Sometimes it's a little bit sketchier or a little bit looser than I like, but I did think that when it was doing something a little bit outside of the box, it was so good. And I think that the story also of her life is really fascinating when she's tackling a lot of these issues of identity and belonging, but it also goes a little bit angsty at times. Sometimes there's just so much emotion and angst and trauma that is being worked through in these stories, and the writing can be just a little bit overly flowery at times for that. But I just also really think that she was working through a lot of these issues, and it's interesting to hear her experiences and her thoughts on everything that's going on. So yeah, there were a couple of things that weren't like perfect for me, but even so, I thought this was a really solid read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I definitely recommend it. And lastly, I read What's Inside a Caterpillar Cocoon by Rachel Ignotofsky. This is a children's picture book, so a young children's picture book that is a science book. So it's all about caterpillars and moths and butterflies and how that kind of life cycle works and how they live and reproduce and what they eat. And it is so beautiful. The pictures in this are absolutely gorgeous. I love Rachel Ignotofsky's art style. I've read basically all of her works, and I think that they're so good. And this one I think just did that perfect balance of providing a lot of scientific information while making it very approachable for a very young audience. This is probably intended for, kids who are 3, 4, 5 years old. And it was just so well done. I can't wait for her to publish even more books. Every time a new one comes out, I'm really excited. I loved this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And if you haven't tried something by Rachel Ignotofsky, I highly recommend you do. Okay, so that is everything that I read for the past 2 weeks. If you guys have read any of these, if you're interested in them, if you've read anything interesting yourself this week, I'd love to hear about it. Just leave me a comment down below.